change while it remains the same.
What's going on, everybody? King of Dragons 5000 here, coming at you with another figure review. Today we'll be having a look at the AEW Unrivaled collection, The Natural Dustin Rhodes. And so here we have the Unrivaled Dustin Rhodes pose and out of the packaging. Now, unfortunately, Dustin Rhodes doesn't come with any accessories, so we can't really show anything off. No alternate pairs of hands, unfortunately. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually move on to his details. And so here we have a closer look at Dustin Rhodes. Now, I think that Jazzware has done a pretty good job with the face. I do think that on this side it does look more like Dustin Rhodes. From this side, I don't know, something's a little bit off. Maybe it's that they made his face a little too young. He does have some wrinkles right here on the mouth and underneath the eye, but the forehead, he's missing some really noticeable wrinkles. As you can see, he does have the wrinkles sculpted on his face, which I think that's what makes this side look good, is that the paint helps bring out the wrinkles. But on this side, it's pretty plain and it doesn't quite get the look of Dustin Rhodes right. The sculpt is there, but I do feel like it's a really soft sculpt. They could add a little more wrinkles to him and it'll look that much better. But as far as the face paint goes, it's done really well. Now, with the way my lights are hitting this figure, it does appear like he has some really serious Kane syndrome where his eyes are two different colors. Now, don't be alarmed, that isn't the case. His eyes are the same colors. It's just an optical illusion brought out by the fact that we have his flesh tone right here, and then we have some blacks and reds right on this side. And my camera is actually trying to focus on his face right now, but it's only focusing on the left or on the right side. The left side, it's actually trying to not focus in on that, which is a little bit odd that my camera would do that. But I really do like the face paint here on Dustin Rhodes. I think they can get it a little bit cleaner. You can still see his hairline through the paint, and I think the way they should have done that is, I honestly don't even know how they would do that, because you'd have to paint the hair on anyway. Yeah, there's a lot of ways that they could have done this, but unfortunately the way they went about it, you can still see his hairline. I get that that adds a little bit of realism, but it doesn't look all too great in figure form. But the hair itself doesn't look good in general. It just looks flat. There's no sculpt detailing on it, which is a little bit unfortunate. I do have to point out that this is the same head sculpt that they used on the ringside exclusive Dustin Rhodes, which I had no problem with that. But I don't know, something about this particular version I have issues with. It might just be the paint job on mine, honestly. So, having a look at his attire, I originally thought that it was the exact same attire that we got with the ringside collectible Dustin Rhodes, but it's actually not. Let's actually bring the ringside collectibles Dustin Rhodes in just for a quick comparison. They actually did add the sculpt or the detailing right here on his costume, where this one didn't have it. This one was more of a smooth texture. This one actually did have texture on it. Now, unfortunately, they did not sculpt the entire texture on his costume, but they did add it through the paint, and it does add a little bit of detailing that does make this figure look really nice, especially right here on the back where it does say the natural. Really do like the texturing on it. I would have loved it if that texturing was throughout the costume. It kind of had like that superhero basketball texture that we've seen in every superhero movie nowadays. But yeah, if it had that texture, I would probably like this figure a little bit more. But still really happy that they did include the zipper going all the way down. So that is a really nice detail. Another good detail here is his tattoos, which do look really nice. You do see that he has a tattoo right here on his left arm, and then on the inside of his arm we have another tattoo. Now, again, just like with his hair and the face paint, the tattoo is pretty noticeable through the wrist tape. Now, I don't know if that's the way it's supposed to be. I highly doubt it that he wears thin wrist tape like that, but It is quite noticeable on both sides. It might just be a case that they didn't add enough layers. If it is like that, good job, but I don't think it's actually like this. I do believe it's more of a solid wrist tape. Not at all saying the tattoos aren't well done. The tattoos are done spectacularly. Really do like the way they came out, but I don't like the translucency in the wrist tape. Now, he does have the gloves right here where we have the red on the right hand this time and the plain black on this side. If you remember the ringside collectibles, Dustin had the red on this side, black on this side. I'm almost inclined to switch out the hands just to make it a little more symmetrical. I don't know, I might end up doing that, I might not. But anyway, continuing on to his legs, we have the same legs that we saw with the ringside collectibles Dustin, but again, the red does have that texturing in it, which is really done nicely. And then we have this silver paint, which is clean. A lot of the paint is clean for the most part, except some spots where you do have the lines not quite lining up properly, but it's not in like every spot. There's like one back here in his leg, which you're never gonna see. The most noticeable one is right here in the front, but again, for the most part, they did get the line work perfectly. Then going on to his boots, we once again have the camera right here. It says a natural on the both of them, and then we do have the Longhorn emblem right there, if the camera will ever focus on it. And one thing I really loved about the last Dustin Rhodes is the texturing on the boots. I don't know what it is about the boots, I just love the way they came out. Really, really good job there. Love these boots. They look really nice, especially with all the stitching going throughout them. So, of course, we do get peg holes, but Jazzware doesn't use the standard pegs for their figures, so those peg holes, you need wider bases. But anyway, Dustin Rhodes here is a really nice figure, and I do prefer the clean version over the bloodied version. So, with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get them compared to other figures you may have in your collection. And so here we have Dustin Rhodes posed next to an Ultimate Edition's Brock Lesnar and a basic Jeff Hardy. And then finally here we do have the Unrivaled Dustin Rhodes posed next to the Ringside Collectibles Dustin Rhodes and a Mattel Goldust. So with the comparisons out of the way, let's actually move on to his articulation. Now, Dustin Rhodes does have the standard AEW articulation, although I do feel like the Dustin Rhodes mold is quite limited. As far as head movement goes, he does have a hinge which does let him look back all that far. He can look down really nice, but just like with most AEW figures, no head tilt, but he does turn left and right, although you do end up breaking up the sculpt right here, so that is a little bit, well, not breaking up the sculpt, but you break up the paint apps, which is a little bit unfortunate. Arms are on a hinge that go that far out, so they do better than horizontal. They go all the way around, but because of the way his torso is sculpted, it's sculpted at a slight angle, so his arm also goes off at an angle, which is kind of strange. You don't really want to see that, but it does happen. We do have a bicep swivel, which works fine. Double bend here at the elbow, giving us much better than 90 degrees. In fact, he can practically touch his shoulder. Almost, but he almost gets there. We do have a swivel and a hinge here at the wrist, and that works beautifully. As far as his torso movement goes, it's still bad. We saw this with the Dustin Rhodes at the Ringside Collectibles figure, where it does lean back quite a bit, but leaning forward, practically nothing. That's neutral. That's pushing it to its limit, and I feel like if I try forcing it any more than that, it's gonna break, so I don't want to do that. We do have some nice pivot right here, so that is good, and some rotation, which never hurts. We do have another ball joint down here, which he does lean back about that far. Leans forward about that far. So overall, that's as far forward as he leans, and that is not that great. He doesn't even have that great side to side here at the waist, and again, most of your rotation comes at this upper joint here, so you're mainly just correcting posing with the lower joint. His legs are some of the worst that I've seen on an AEW figure. They still haven't fixed it. Out to the side, they go out no problem, so I do like the outward movement. It's the forward and back movement that I have an issue with. That's it. That's as far forward as his leg goes. Yeah, you can force it to go that far, but that is still unacceptable by any measure. Not even Mattel at its worst was that bad. That's terrible. Good thing it's only on this Dustin Rhodes. I would have liked more articulation. I mean, it does rotate on that ball joint, and then we do have rotation right here. We do have double bend at the knee, which goes up a little past the 90, which I don't expect Dustin Rhodes to go past this, so the figure does a really good job of emulating life. We do have rotation at the boot, hinge at the ankle going back and forward, and then forward facing pin for rocker ankle. So the only point of contention for his articulation really is the key points of articulation, which is forward mobility and leg movement, because both of those are really terrible. So with that out of the way, guys, let's actually get Dustin Rhodes posed for my final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up this review. And so here we have the natural Dustin Rhodes pose for my final thoughts. And overall, I think Dustin Rhodes here is a pretty good figure. He's not at all that spectacular when it comes to articulation. I do feel like he is hindered more than any other AEW figure. I guess you can chalk it up that that's pretty much how he moves in real life. But at the same time, it's an action figure. You kind of want him to be able to do the same things that other action figures do. And it is kind of frustrating getting him in poses, seeing as how his legs and abs don't want to cooperate with you. Other than that, I think that he's a really solid figure with the exception of no accessories. That's another point that I have to deduct from this figure. We don't get any accessories with Dustin Rhodes. Now, one thing I did notice is that this figure's hands pop out relatively easy. Was he supposed to come with alternate hands? And if so, what were they going to be? Were they going to be fists? Were they going to be open hands? It really does surprise me that he has the ability to have his hands swapped out, but we don't get any alternate hands. I think at some point Jazzware did design this figure to have alternate hands, but at some point decided that it wasn't going to be cost effective, so they just omitted it from the figure entirely, leaving in the interchangeable hands. Now, that's not a problem because I'll just swap out the hands with the AEW Ringside Collectibles Dustin, which has the red on the left hand, which I think I'm going to go with a more symmetrical look for this figure. Overall, Dustin Rhodes here is a pretty decent figure. I'm not going to say he's great, but at the same time, he's not the worst we've ever seen. In terms of AEW figures, I will say, yeah, he is the worst, but the AEW figures are still nicely detailed, and I do like the fact that he has his very own sculpt, and that does give him points where he really does need it. If you are looking for Dustin Rhodes here, the only place I have seen the AEW figures is on Ringside Collectibles. I have not seen any AEW figures in the wild, which, it is frustrating at this point because I really don't want to pay Ringside Collectible prices for AEW figures, but it does look like that's my only option at this point. I really want to support this line, but it's really hard to support a line that you really don't see in stores. So yeah, I do think that these figures are worth the $20, but I don't think they're worth the $30 that Ringside is putting them for. If you can find Dustin in the wild, I really do recommend you pick him up. If you're a fan of AEW and want to fill out your collection, or you just want to make a custom Goldust figure, you can absolutely do that with this figure. So with that being said, guys, I'm KingofDragons 5000. Don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and check out all my other action figure reviews as well as all my other AEW videos. Hopefully you find them informative. As always, if there's a figure you would like to see me review, let me know down in the comments. And if it's in my collection, I'll gladly have a look at it. While you're at it, check out my Instagram account for new and exciting action figure photos. And as always, ring that bell to be notified every time I upload a video. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later. Take care, everyone.